On January 19, 2023, the United States federal government reached its borrowing limit of $31.38 trillion and has been unable to secure additional funds since. In order to maintain its operational activities, the U.S. Treasury has been leveraging extraordinary measures, such as cashing in investments from government retirement funds. The U.S. debt ceiling is a legal limit on how much the federal government can borrow to pay its bills. It has been raised many times in the past, but this year, it has become a source of political conflict and uncertainty. If Congress does not act soon to raise or suspend the debt ceiling, the U.S. could run out of money to pay its obligations by early June. What happens if the U.S. defaults on its debt? This would be unprecedented and potentially disastrous for the economy and the American people. What would a default mean for the U.S. and the world? A default would mean that the U.S. government would not be able to pay all of its bills on time. This could include interest on its debt, Social Security benefits, military salaries, Medicare reimbursements, tax refunds, and more. The Treasury Department would have to prioritize some payments over others, but it is not clear how it would do so or what legal authority it would have. A default would also damage the U.S.'s creditworthiness and reputation as a safe and reliable borrower. The U.S. Treasury bonds are widely held by investors around the world as a low-risk asset. If the U.S. fails to honor its obligations, it could trigger a sell-off of these bonds, driving up interest rates and increasing borrowing costs for the government and everyone else. This could lead to a vicious cycle of higher debt payments, lower revenues, and deeper spending cuts. A default could also spark a financial crisis and a global recession. The U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency, meaning that many countries and businesses use it for international trade and transactions. If the dollar loses its value and credibility, it could disrupt the global financial system and trade flows. Moreover, a default could erode confidence in the U.S. economy and its institutions, causing investors and consumers to panic and pull back on spending and lending. This could result in widespread job losses, decimated retirement savings, and lower economic growth. How can a default be avoided? The only way to avoid a default is for Congress to raise or suspend the debt ceiling before the deadline. This would allow the Treasury Department to continue borrowing money to pay its bills. However, this requires bipartisan cooperation and compromise, which has been lacking in recent months. Some Republicans have demanded spending cuts or other policy concessions in exchange for raising the debt ceiling, while Democrats have argued that it should be done without conditions. President Joe Biden has invited congressional leaders from both parties to meet at the White House on Tuesday to discuss the debt ceiling and other issues. He has warned that default is not an option and that it would cause economic calamity. He has also urged Republicans to stop playing political games with the nation's finances and to act responsibly. The debt ceiling is not a limit on how much the government can spend or borrow in the future. It is a limit on how much it can pay for what it has already spent or committed to spend. Raising the debt ceiling does not mean endorsing more spending or debt. It means honoring past obligations and avoiding a self-inflicted crisis.